In this testimony, I will be referring to some names with letters. So one word will be labeled P, and the other word will be labeled MB. And with the context of this video, you should understand what those are. So before I begin, I was trying to say God bless you, and hope you're all having a good day, and may it be well with you. So this all began one day when I was a couple years ago, right before I was 10 years old. And we had one of those television sets which had thousands of TV shows or just channels. And on that TV you can also play games with the remote. And sometimes I would do that, and that's what I was looking for while I was scrolling through the channels that day. So here I am scrolling through these channels, and I come across a channel, and I thought it was one for gaming because of the name. Now I won't mention the name of it, but I will mention the picture I saw, and it was like a cartoon bunny, and I was completely convinced, and I was genuinely thinking I was about to play a game or watch a game. But later on, I came to find out that at that moment my life became a game, my mind being the playground and my actions being the results. Because on that day, I was introduced to P. And being one of the first things that I was introduced to, I almost immediately became addicted to it. And I can say that this was the biggest snare in my life. A lot of my problems, a lot of my hurt came from this. But through all this affliction, it shows that God is faithful, as you will see. And from then on, considering my age, it did not get much worse until I started growing more. And as I grew more, the desire grew more to continue to look at the content. And so that's what I did, and that lasted for many a long time. And it gave me the satisfaction that I thought I was looking for, and I thought it truly was giving me that filling the void within me. But no, it just kept making the void even bigger in me, and the desire kept growing and growing and growing, like how every addiction grows. It was to the point where it's almost all I would think about, all I would desire. And you know how Jesus says that what people don't want to be brought to light is what they don't want to show before God, and they would do what they do in the night, and that's what I would do, and I would indulge on these things for hours in the night, hours upon hours. At that time, I'd rather lose sleep than indulge in those things. And now that part of the testimony was the visual part. And then later on, as you grow, you'll know that it gets more than visual after that. And this is where MB comes in, and that's when it became physical. So from this time, the playground was in my mind, and now it started to now the action started to show. So at this point, we have gone through how I was introduced to it, and now it will be the intensity and the severity of all of this, and it does not get nice. So I'll try and simplify as much as possible. It got so bad that I started making goals on daily goals on how much I should MB. And I remember specifically one day it was 3 times. Once in the morning, then the afternoon, and then the night. I started making goals. That's when you know it gets pretty bad. That's also something that makes me believe that I was possessed for that period of time. Because first of all, it would be 24/7 on my mind, the only thing I would think about other than gaming. And I began making goals. And it was an addiction, but I didn't want to admit it was an addiction to myself. So I just kept basically every day making myself believe that I can stop anytime. But I came to realize that was probably one of the most hard things I've ever done in my life, trying to stop doing that. I couldn't last 2 days to a week. I couldn't do even 1 day without it. And right now I'm talking about MB, which by now you should be able to comprehend. So in total, from the beginning of being introduced to it to the time where I started wanting to stop doing it, was about a period of 7 to 8 years. And by that time, my mind was almost completely perverted and deranged. And if I were to add everything up in the space of 2 to 3 years, 3,000 times, over 3,000 times. Think about that. In 2 to 3 years, 3,000 times, And that's just rounding it down. And all this while I was out. This is the best part. All this while I was professing to believe in Jesus Christ. And around this time, I did not pick up my Bible. I knew about Jesus a good amount, but I didn't read the Bible. And it was about 2 years ago from this point, right where we are right now. It was about 2 years ago where I started to say that I'm gonna stop doing this. Like, I need to. It's bad. So I tried with my own strength, and basically every week I would fail. Almost every single week, the longest I'd do by myself would be like almost a month, and then I'd fail. And that increased like depression, all sorts of things, because I just felt hopeless. Like, just imagine a teenage boy with a mind this deranged. How in the world can someone like that possibly stop? I mean, 3,000 times in just 2 to 3 years. And for a year, I kept trying to stop, and it just kept failing every single time. And this is the good part. It was only when I picked up my Bible that I started seeing change. I started reading more and more about Jesus and God and the children of Israel. I just kept reading and reading, read through all the promises, read through all the deliverance, all the healings that was done through the hands of God to the people. And eventually deliverance started coming in. Like, I didn't even realize that at first. I was spending so much time reading the word and even praying a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And then one month I realized that I didn't do it at all. And then after that, another month. And then after that, another month. And then I fell a little here and there a little, but then I continued to grow with God and started to commune with him even more. And God gave me the grace of time to be able to do that. So I thank him for that. And in the space of a year, I was basically completely delivered, with the exception of a few attacks here and there. The desire completely went away. And only those of you who understand where I'm coming from can understand the depths of deliverance that I experienced, the saving power of God on my life, because of how deranged my mind was just a year ago, compared to now, that it doesn't even come to me in thought. Just a few years ago, I couldn't imagine going by without thinking about it for at least 30 minutes, in the space of 30 minutes, but now I can go days, weeks, months. It's even until now that I was put on my heart to make a testimony about this. And for those of you who understand, this can only be the hand of God. No therapist, no self-effort could ever do that. 3,000 times in 2 to 3 years. For like 7 to 8 years in total. I mean, to get more in depth in the severity of it, I mean, it was everywhere. At school, at work, at home, at a party, in the car, driving, everywhere. I would be inclined to MB everywhere. Like, in the middle of class. That's how bad it was. And definitely nothing I'm proud of. But now here I am, and it doesn't even come to me anymore in thought. And this was all due to me. It did have, on my part, some personal effort. And all I had to do was remain with God, because God was doing the work in me, and I was just communing with him. And this was done just by, for me, a few minor prayers, but a lot, and I mean a lot, like 7 to 8 hours a day reading the word. And this goes to show that the word is living, sharper than any two-edged sword, dividing even the soul and spirit. My mind is different than it was 2 years ago, I can tell you that. I can finally think rationally. And this shows that God is still alive, he is still able, and he's still working in people's lives. And whether this concerns you or not, just know that God is still working in your life too. And he can take the ashes of your life. He can turn the sin that is crimson to be white as snow. He could take those ashes to become beauty. He'll turn your darkness into light. Because if I did not go through all that stuff, I would not know the severity. I would not know the devices of the enemy that I may stand against them. But now I do. And I can tell others about it too, as I am doing now. And continue to prove to people that God is faithful and that there is a God and he loves all of us. So I thank you for sticking with me to the end of the testimony. And I just want to leave off with a blessing for you. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom and have a great day. And thank you for watching.